Hey everybody, welcome to another episode where we are in our book read. You always see just a group, a portion of us, but there are more that sits around the table before we get here. And the book read is on the invisible ache. It's brought a lot of different emotions and a lot of thoughts and everything. So what I want to do is make sure we kind of dive in. We at chapter 4 and 5. So if you're keeping up with us, go ahead and look at that. But what I want to do is start it out with a quote where it says, Courtney Vance says that if you don't transform your pain, you will transmit it. When you look at your life right now, what unclaimed grief are you carrying from your father or your past relationships that are at risk of passing down to the next generation? And so when I saw that and heard that, the first thing I thought was, if and I don't even know why this question came to me, but I was like, what would I have? What would be something that would be left in my legacy that I would be like? Because I saw a bench. I was at one of the parks in Hyde Park, the over by Lakeshore Drive area, and there was a sitting bench, and it said, "This is dedicated to," in the person's name, and it said because as a teacher, they touched over X number thousand lives, and it had the number, and it says, so for everybody sits here, this is part of her legacy, right? And so I thought, wow, so what would I pass on as I start thinking about that? Because some things I've feared, or like some things I've done that has always been because of other people. So when we think about like legacy and we think about the struggles that we have, what are some things that we would do that would change some of those? Did I make that question right? What are some things that you guys would look at that you would kind of say, this is where my legacy will go, but I have to give up certain things to make it happen, or that I haven't gotten there yet, but this is where I want. So when people talk about you years from now as a salutatorian for the class of, so you will be like 20 years later, the first graduating class, and you were salutatorian. So 20 years from now, what would you want them to say about you?
I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know. I had to think about that question. I was gonna let them talk. Yeah.
Oh, you want to let somebody else talk for you?
Yeah.
So you want to ask somebody else that same question?
Yeah.
I can't ask them that same question.
Can I chime in on
Absolutely.
the original question? So the original question is, what are you carrying from your past that if you don't address, you can pass on?
Right.
I believe that one of the things that I did carry was the lack of ability to emote. Growing up, we talked about this in our pre-production. I'll use that term, pre-production, about how you carry stuff from your childhood, like the old adages of family business remains family business, and so on and so on and so forth. That gets passed down. One of those things that's passed down to a lot of young black boys is emotional lack of vulnerability in terms of addressing
because boys don't cry,
right? Yes, boys don't cry. Boys don't cry. Boys don't cry. So we don't learn how to emote, and you can pass that down without even trying. It's just through your behaviors, is how you respond to things. And one of the things that I've been fortunate enough in having daughters is you naturally have to treat them in a different nature. Like subconsciously you do it. You treat them differently than you do boys. Like their crying is received, and you're trying to figure out how to help them acknowledge that that's okay. And not to run from those spaces, and then what to do with that. Like you teach your daughters emotional intelligence, and through that having those conversations and doing that work, I become a little bit more intelligent about my emotions. So that plus the schooling has allowed me a different type of understanding of how to address emotions, or even just sit with emotions. Because sitting with another person's emotions is another uncomfortable space, right?
Sitting with your own emotions is uncomfortable at times.
And that's why, because their emotions can trigger your emotions. Like you can sit there and just like unconsciously, you can see yourself in a similar space, or you can relate back to something that happened that placed you in this space, and it can unearth all types of feelings.
Yeah.
So I believe that is one of the things that I have been doing work on. Well, I've been forced to do work on through my children. And
Well, I think that's what happens to all of us. At some point, we're forced to do it. You know, Mr. Ramey, you, I heard you kind of nod, and you want to add something to that?
I think mine would be not to have so many trust issues. I think it takes me a while to open up and be vulnerable, or think someone's not out to get me. So it's like my guard is up until I figure out, like, hey, this person might be on my side, or you know, if I'm dating or whatnot, this young lady's not gonna hurt me this particular time. So it takes me time to want to open up.
But so let me ask, how does that? Do you have a particular time that you do that, or do you eventually just say they wore me down, I can trust them now, or is there a formula, or do you just?
I would probably say trial and error. Sometimes.
So eventually you just try them out.
When you go through stuff with people, you realize, okay, they got my back, or it got rough at this particular patch. It's like, oh, she left me. Or even with my guys, like I might have an issue, and then it was like, actually, you helped me carry this box, and he was like, oh, I can't do it today, tomorrow, this week, or next week. So it's like, oh, you're not my guy.
Yeah. And it's crazy. I could be piggyback off that, like even with just something that you maybe carried on. I think like coming up, one of the things that I may have seen from whether my family members or just that is kind of like believing that you have to endure so much pain for that to prove love. So I think sometimes I'm in a state where it's like, man, you don't have to get beaten, you know what I'm saying, or you don't got to take so much from somebody just for you to prove them that you love them. Or just for you to show love, because I was able to endure so much, whether it's your mama, seeing your mom go through relationships and she's seeing, you know, deal with so much pain, seeing your families, my aunties or whatever, and you think that that's what love looks like, being able to take so much, and then kind of wearing it as a badge of honor, like, I'm cool, I'm tough because I'm able to, you know, withstand so much pain, not wanting that to pass down, you know, to generation is a thing.
Yeah, I think that was powerful to say, how much pain do I take to understand love? And then how much pain do I want to endure to understand love, right? Yeah. And so what I love about having the students here also is, because some of the things that we've been through, they go through, but it might be at a different level or something like that. But I do want to ask real quick to Brother Wiggins here, how many times because I know that you do this, how many times have you given advice to like some of your friends to help them when they're down? Because you always smiling, right? Do you ever stop and say, I need to take some of my own advice, or whatever I told them I should do now to make myself feel better? You don't know? So do you give a lot of advice out? Or are you more to yourself? So tell us more about why you're more to yourself. Because you're the baby, right? Does being the baby make you feel like you're to yourself, or? So what makes you feel like you have to be to yourself?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm to myself, but like, I wouldn't give nobody no advice. Like, I don't give people advice.
Why?
I don't think I'm the right guy to give people advice.
Okay. That's deep though.
So do you feel like you're smart enough to help people academically? Like if some of your classmates needs help, and I've seen you in math, so you're good in math. You think you can help them in math? So if they have a problem with reading, do you think you can help them in reading? So what advice would you give them? Or you wouldn't give them, you would just help them? So you still give them advice on how to do it though, right? No?
You want to do it for?
Nah, I wouldn't do it for them. But
You're showing them how to do it.
yeah.
So you're still showing somebody the way, right?
Yeah.
What I received from that is, I'm not gonna volunteer, but if you come to me, I'm here to support. I'm here. Like, I'll open the door if you come to the door.
And I'm good with that. Yeah. Is that what you were saying? So if I was a student that was struggling, you wouldn't help me at all unless I said, "Hey Wiggins, can you help me?" Okay, that's fair. And is that because you feel like they should be strong enough to ask you for help?
I think his initial statement is, I don't feel like I'm the person, like I'm the like the right person to do it. That's interesting for a few different reasons. one, very humble, a lot of humility in that statement. Two, we often don't know how people are going to receive us, right? We see young people all the time. Not even just young people. We just see people all the time who we can acknowledge that there's something going on, or even they can acknowledge that there's something going on, but they may not be receptive to receiving support from the person that's in front of them. Mm-hmm. It's the same. It's the same
so
thing.
So it's like, let's wait and see when they really need it from me, because they might not hear it. Like somebody can tell me all day and I may not hear it.
It's the messenger. Mm-hmm. It's the message versus the messenger.
And as especially going into the book about the invisible ache, I may feel like William's trying to tell me about my pain. He don't know enough to tell me about my pain, even though maybe he's lived through something similar or had some issues, but he might not be qualified to tell me about my pain. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of... So I'm back to you on your 20 years later. So it's 2046?
2046.
2046. That was a guy 20 years ago
that walked these halls.
That was the salutatorium 20 years ago. What are they going to say about you?
I don't really know.
What do you want them to say about you? Because it's like, are you right? You wouldn't know what they're going to say, but I would want people to remember this about you.
Mm-hmm. What do they say about you now?
Right now, I feel like a lot of people. First, I feel like they'll talk about my humor, like how much I be playing and stuff. And then also I feel like they said that I was respectful and I was locked in on school. And I don't really know.
Because 20 years from now, you could have a kid here.
Right.
And then people will say, you know, when your dad was here.
Mm-hmm.
And he was smart and he was funny. But he was in the hallway.
Wasn't always.
But you get what I'm saying? So it's important that as we lift up that mask, that we're not afraid to deal with the hurt we have in order to make a difference for other people. Because whether we know it or not, somebody, somehow, is watching all of us. Mm-hmm. They're watching our mannerism. Mm-hmm. They're watching how we interact with people. And when I say people, they're watching how we interact with all types of people.
It's interesting that you said that, like, because that's how we conduct ourselves, right? As black men, we are very, very conscious of the fact that the world is watching us, right? There are all these narratives that are out there that we either lean into or we try to distance ourselves from. And the chapter chapter 4 opens up with Courtney talking about him going to see his psychologist and him being early and it taking place in this environment that you only have access to if you have a key, right? And how he sat there at the top of his acting career at that point in time. He's on Broadway. He's a Ivy League trained actor, educated black man who's going to the highest schools that he could at those points in time, right? And he's been successful, and he's sitting in this space on this porch, and he's very relevant. He's very relevant in this place that he is, and people are walking past him as if they do not see him.
Don't see him and don't know
as if he is not even there, right? And yet we walk around with the conscious belief that everybody is paying attention, everybody is watching everything that we do. So we have to be our best selves at all the time.
And that's tiring.
It's tiring.
Tell me more about the tiring.
It's exhausting. And I think it's one of those things where it's just that where you think like because like you have this notion that you got to be perfect all the time as a black man, or that you have to be so sharp and so on point sometimes as a black man, that we put ourselves in situations where we might exalt ourselves or just push ourselves to exhaustion by trying to prove something to people, to other people, or even sometimes prove something to ourselves in certain environments, so that we don't feel
less than,
or don't feel like we're not ourselves.
I think that goes back to like the first chapter we talked about the mask, some of the masks that we wear. I think sometimes the mask becomes heavy because you have to have a certain image, or you got to do things a certain way, or when you have to help somebody, you have to do. You're required to do it because your name is on the line. And if you don't help him, it's like, he's this, he's that, but he didn't even want to help me. So it's like now you're required to do more than you want to do or willing to do.
So I think when we look at 4 also, that was something that was important, especially that we're quickly going to May, which is Mental Health Month. He does talk about the 2 suicides that he has to reface from his godson and from his dad. Like, it just doesn't disappear, right? Yeah. And I do want to point out in chapter 5, I believe, where he talks about people who do it feel like there is no other way out. That this is the it. I don't see. It's not about me being selfish. It's about I just don't see another way out. And I want to bring that up because sometimes we face people who don't think that there's a way out. And I think it behooves us, even as men, like here, to go back to what he said, the 2 points in chapter 4 and 5, that we move from the surface level of how you doing to the big, bold, and beautiful truth of how you actually feeling. And so I want to challenge us that we start asking how we feel and not how we're doing, but how we feeling at this moment, so that we can find each other to be vulnerable with. Because when we're able to do that, maybe we'll open up and give somebody a chance to say something that we can bring hope. Because that's when every day we face something that makes us feel like it's hopelessness. But we have the opportunity to have somebody come in our corner and be like, nope, there's hope. Nope, you can do this. Nope, you're better than that. And so I really want us to kind of think and challenge us to do that with each other, and everybody we meet. Not how you doing, unless we just want a surface answer, but how are you really feeling. And so let's work on that this week. And try to get that out. Any last parting words anybody got?
I think one time, man, this is one time Dean called me in the hallway like last year, man. And it was one of them times, man. He got, man, what's going on? How you feel, bro? I think I just broke down in his arms, like, man, it's tough, bro. Like,
that was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, and straight up, man, shit in tears, like, man, bro, you came at the right time, man. Like, I'm getting there, bro. It's getting better. But it was one of those moments where he asked at that right moment where it was like, I was going through it. It was me and him in the hallway. It was probably like 4 or 5 o'clock, wasn't it, man?
Yeah, it was after work hours.
Yeah, straight up, yeah. I mean, what's going on with you? I know how you feel though, man. I'm like, man, I'm getting there, bro. But that his question just brought so much like concern. Like, no, stop. I'm not asking you about these kids and asking you about how you doing, bro. What's going on with you and yourself? And I think that moment just brought me like, okay, now you gotta be mindful of that.
But it allowed you to release.
Yep.
And I think when we release, we restore ourselves to be better. Like, it talks also in the book about that we can hold these feelings so long till we explode. Because if you hold it in and you hold a Pepsi so long, shake it, at some point when you open it, it's going to spew everywhere. Yeah. So, you know.
It's funny that he says this, right? That's an analogy that he told me my first year working with him. And I've used that to explain emotions with kids and just people in general, and how you have to gradually release, gradually open to allow some of it, the air to release, so that you can receive and handle what comes out, because it is heavy.
Yeah, it's heavy.
And
this life is not easy.
And we try to keep everything together because there's a fear of, if we let it all out, how do we put it back together? Yeah. How do we bottle it back up in order for us to keep moving? Yeah. So
I kind of do the same thing with a young man. I say, man, sometimes you see all these black men around this building, and we make it look easy. We come in here, we dressed up, haircuts, nice shoes, and we make it look real easy. But it's tough. You know what I'm saying? It's tough under the surface. Yeah. But like I said, it's a process.
Yeah.
And these spaces, these are the spaces that are necessary, because I love the fact that they're here. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that they get to see me crying. I love the fact they get to see vulnerability. Yep. Because it's important.
And vulnerability, as Lee said earlier, is a choice, but it's also a choice that we can do that in front of each other and still feel supported. Like, I don't want to be vulnerable and then all of a sudden admit nothing to me. If I open up to you, if I show you I love you and I show you I got you, and then I show you how I'm feeling about it and everything, that's me being vulnerable, but that's me being vulnerable so number one, I can grow, and then that you can grow. Because there's not a lot of men that are vulnerable around each other all the time. And, you know,
anytime.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then we don't always say
Yeah.
I love you. We don't say well how you feeling, and so that's my challenge for next week. Let's find out how people are really feeling, and not just get that surface question. So with that being said, we are done for today. We will see you guys again as we talk about the invisible ache.
Good read, man.
Good read.
Deep
Good
read. Intense read.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.